Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I'm your host, JulieTaylor, hosting from Palmer, Alaska, and broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, with another episode of Women's World with Leah Michaelson from the Holy Land of Israel. Shalom, shalom, my dear.
Good morning to you.
My beautiful friend who I've missed all week. It seems like we're both been so busy we haven't been able to catch up during the week.
I know.
Too much.
I was thinking about that, and then it was like last night, and then it's like we've got stuff going on, and then it's like a quick message, and then it's like, all right, I'm going to see you tomorrow. So
I know. Here we are.
It's always so good to see you.
You too. You too. How's life in Israel these days?
Well, for us, it's good. It's been tough because we are maybe getting more restrictions. We have a lot of new cases of the COVID-19. I mean, so much so where now they're saying it's out of control, and now they're trying to get it under control. And so now they're talking about restricting. Right now, they're restricting anybody going to a shul, a synagogue, for only up to 50 people. And any events like weddings, bar mitzvahs, any special occasions, only 50 people. We have to have our mask on at all times, which that's always been the case. It's unfortunately, we still have people that aren't following that. And so they have fines that they will give to people if they catch them. But some people are very, I don't know if I want to say slick, because I saw a Facebook friend write that that people will wear the mask like under their chin, like they'll have it over their ears, but they pull it under their chin, so it's kind of like this.
Right.
And then
technically they're wearing it.
Right, they're wearing it, but we're supposed to wear it over our nose and mouth. Yeah. So you'll see people with it under their chin or just over their mouth. So
right.
And if they see a policeman, it's kind of like whoop, up real quick, and they leave and back down it goes. Now, you can't wear it if you go to a restaurant, but you wear it until your food or your drinks arrive, and then you can remove it, eat, and of course they're social distancing all the tables. But now there's talk that they may only allow up to 20 people in a restaurant.
Oh boy!
And there was talk that they first were going to close the shuls, and then there was a big brouhaha with some of the different parties and said, no, you can't do that, because it's like, if you're still having a business open, why can't we have our shul open? So so things are still in the works with that, and it's hot, and so wearing a mask, and I mean, it's wonderful going out. I mean, no complaints. I mean, it's hot. All right, it's hot. We're dealing with the heat. It's just part of life. We have our different seasons. So it is what it is, but everything's good, and we're moving right along, and working on different things. So it's good. How about with you?
Good.
The kids.
Good. Oh yes, the kids. We
meaning the goats, ladies.
Exactly. Well, they got in their pen yesterday. We made a new pen with a rock mountain, and so we put them in there. Maybe it wasn't yesterday. Might have been the day before. But anyway, man, they loved it. They just went bouncing around and jumping up the hill, and they were just so cute and happy to be in their little pen. And chickens. We recounted them yesterday, and we're like, I think we have 40, which we were thinking we had 37. So I don't know. We might have gained 3.
Maybe some friends kind of wandered over.
I don't know, but we're like,
they heard your restaurant was really good.
That's funny. My son likes to go out. He's 9, and he likes to go out and try to hold the turkeys. And they're not babies, but they're not adults. But
so what kind of like for him, like, is it an armful for him, or I'm trying to picture, because I'm thinking of big turkeys.
No, they're probably half the size of what you would picture as a normal turkey. But he likes to pick them up and tame them and put them up on their perch, and
Aww.
it's pretty cute. But then he had a conversation yesterday about, you're not going to kill my turkeys, are you? So we had to have the whole farm conversation about they're not pets. You know, they are raised for a purpose, and
Right.
we have to, I mean, we're not going to do anything with the goats. They are pets, but the chickens, turkeys, they're food. So
Right.
he's going to have a little lesson on that pretty soon.
That's a little hard.
It is. I'm like, try not to get too attached to them, but I said, that's
Right.
why you have a dog. Your
Okay.
dog is what you get attached to as a pet, but the other ones, you know, that's life, and that's what we do for food, and you just can't get attached.
I don't remember. He didn't name them, right?
Well, we
kind
of named them, and I don't know if I should say what we named them. We named the turkeys after some rabbis that are popular on Tanakh Talk.
Oh my.
That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not saying anything to that.
Well, it was funny. It was funny. So, and hopefully they're not offended. They would be honored.
And you don't think of them as turkeys, obviously.
Exactly.
Not at all.
Yeah, it's funny.
Oh,
but we did pick Hebrew names for the goats, and I'm gonna write Hebrew on the front of their little house. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So
that's good. It's a wonderful learning experience.
It sure is.
For him,
really is.
It's a great education. That's fantastic.
Right. And he's been learning to drive the tractor and use a saw and those kind of things, you know, good life skills.
That is.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
School is outdoors as well as indoors.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
So before we get going too far, I just want to remind all the ladies that we will not have a show next week. William will be out of town, so we'll have a little break. I know, bummer. But that just means the next show will be twice as good, right?
Yeah, I'm actually already planning on the next show, which I'll let you all know at the end of this show.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun. So
yeah.
I'm sure he needs a good vacation like most of us do. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
That is awesome. So we've been getting some good emails and feedback, and that's always nice to see. And so keep them coming, ladies. Keep us encouraged too, so we can provide information that you want, things that you are interested in, and comments, questions, anything. Our email's on the bottom of the screen, so feel free to email either one of us or both of us, and we will get your questions answered and try to get your topics on the air.
And if you have a prayer request, if you need prayer, then we're happy to pray for you as well. We're here for you.
Good idea. So, like, share, donate, pass it on to your friends, spread the word, and let's get this women's world up at the top of the list.
Yeah, if you're blessed by it, please just, if you think it'll be a blessing for others, please continue to share.
Yeah.
Because we're blessed that we can actually come to you each week to be able to share.
I agree with that 100%.
Yes.
So I'm excited to hear what we have today.
Yeah.
As usual, you're an amazing speaker and teacher.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Well,
what I share with all of you beautiful ladies, I'm sharing it with myself. When I'm studying everything and sharing, I'm telling myself as well, just so you know that. And just if I may interject, Jules, gentlemen, we appreciate that you like to watch the show, but we ask that you refrain from posting any comments. We like to leave this as a safe place just for the women, just to comment on, anything during the show, or if they have a question, that we'll be able to follow up with in another show, or anything that they'd like to know, please.
Right.
And we appreciate your understanding with that.
Absolutely.
And so let's dedicate the show, Jules.
Yes.
So for the refuah shlema, for all those that are suffering with illness, whether physically, mentally, for those that are waiting for the results of a COVID-19 test, may they all hear only good news and everything would be negative. And for comfort for all the families that have lost loved ones.
Yes.
May Hashem just bring his comfort and his shalom, his peace to them in this time.
Amen. Good.
All right. Well, let's get
It's
started.
all yours.
Okay. So I titled the show, Where Do Your Eyes Take You? And I think what we're going to start off with first is talking about Tammuz. We are now in the Hebrew month of Tammuz. And Tammuz is a very hot month for us. It's summer heat. I know other parts of the world, I think they are having winter, but it's a very hot month. Once you start entering Tammuz, Av, and then Elul, it's very hot. And it's very hot here. It's now, I think, about 6:15, and it is still about 84 degrees here in Israel, in Sfat. So it's a little warm. So coming up this week on Thursday is the 17th of Tammuz. And we have what's called Som Tammuz. And that is a fast day. And so Thursday from like an hour before sunrise to sundown, it's in remembrance of Jerusalem's walls being breached, and it is the beginning of the 3 weeks of mourning, which is commemorating and ending with the destruction of the first and second temples. It's the 3 weeks that end with Tisha B'Av, and the day that the temple was destroyed. And there are 5 things that happened on the 17th of Tammuz. The golden calf was offered by the Jewish people 40 days after the giving of the Torah at Har Sinai. It was the time of the smashing of the first tablets by Moses. And in Rashi Chumash, we can see that on the 17th of Tammuz, the tablets were broken. On the 18th, he burned the calf and judged the sinners. And on the 19th, he went up the mountain. As it says, the next day Moshe said to the people, and he spent 40 days there and asked for mercy for all of Israel. And then he would return to the encampment. It's also the time where the Korban, the sacrifice in Solomon's temple, which is the first temple, the holy temple, the Beit HaMikdash, were discontinued. It's also the time where the walls of Jerusalem were breached by the Roman army. And the Roman general, Apostomus, burned the Torah and placed an idol in the second temple. These are all the things that happen on the 17th of Tammuz. So that's why we take that day and fast. And in this, we're seeing a rise in anti-Semitism all around the world. We've had a lot of fires here in Israel. There have been arson fires. Just this past week, there was one day where I was walking my dog Mushy, and we're walking and I'm smelling something burning. So I look to one end of the street and I can see this plume of white smoke, and I just started praying that Hashem would be able to get that fire out. And so we're continuing to walk, and I'm still smelling burning, and sure enough, on the opposite end of the street, now it doesn't mean it was on our street, but in each direction of our street, there were fires. And I just kept thinking about that all week long, was the fires. And they're burning away, and the fires like within us, or the fires that we cause, they're good, is it bad, within us, or, like being fired up. And in the month of Tammuz, it's a month of challenge and confrontation. Without challenge, there's no growth. Without confrontation, there's no way to see things as they are. And I know I mentioned in the past that there's pain in growth, and that doesn't always happen that as we grow that it's always a painful experience, but there are times that it is. We see in Sefer Yetzirah by Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan that Tammuz is known as, the quality of Tammuz is sight. I was like, that's really interesting. Because Julie, I know we've talked about the Yetzer Hara, the Yetzer Tov, the evil inclination, the good inclination. Last week we talked about Lashon Hara, the evil tongue. So let's talk about sight. And let's talk about the INTR, which is the evil eye. Our vision, what are we visualizing? What do we see? And seeing beyond what our eyes see. For example, seeing beyond the cover of a book. Jules, I don't know if you've heard the term, don't judge a book by its cover.
Oh, yes.
Right. So that's something when we're looking at. Are we immediately judging and seeing with our eyes and not looking past the cover? How about imaginations? Taking what we see and making images in our head, making mental images. So let me just take a sip. So I want to share with you from Netivot Olam in Netiv Ayin Tov in 1.5, and this is written by the Maharal. And the Maharal known as Judah Lau ben Betzalel, or Rabbi Lo, and he was a Talmudic scholar, a Jewish mystic, and a philosopher, a traditional Kabbalist in Judaism called a Mekubal. And a Mekubal is someone that you go to for answers, for esoteric, from a Kabbalistic perspective. And what he said was the evil eye has within it a burning energy, and man can be harmed by one who has that burning power, because this type of eye can burn like fire that burns. Here we have that fire. And I saw this video of a girl. I don't know if you've seen it, Jules, or ladies, if any of you have seen it. It was of a Harvard graduate. And in this video, I couldn't believe it. She threatened to stab anyone who told her all lives matter. And while they were struggling and bleeding out, she would go ahead and show them her paper cut and say that her paper cut matters too. So here she's going to look with her eyes. She's already speaking terribly about people, and now looking and saying, I'm just going to watch you bleed out. Well, she lost her job because of it. And she wasn't taking responsibility for her own actions. She actually blamed supporters of President Trump. So just to give an example of that and causing like that kind of a fire. The Maharal taught that even a lack of concern for another can be considered like an ayin hara, an evil eye. Whoever is aware of another's needs and has the ability to help him, but is uninterested in doing so, is declaring that this other person is irrelevant and superfluous to him. Let's take a look at the Parsha from this past week, Parsha Balak. And it's the story of Bil'am. Bil'am had an evil eye. In the Parsha, we see that Balak sent messengers to Bil'am, the son of Beor at Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the people of Ammah, and he called to him and saying to Bil'am, behold, a people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the earth, and they are dwelling opposite me. Come now, curse this people for me. Since they are too mighty for me, perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them from the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed. Speaking about Bil'am, blessing and cursing. Now, the Hebrew here is I. There are some English translations that prefer the term face of the earth, but it's actually I. However, the Midrash clearly renders the word I, as I mentioned, in Midrash Rabbah, Numbers 27. And another rabbi that I was reading about, and about Bil'am, he said that Bil'am would only be able to prophesy when prostrated. And the Zohar understands this gesture of him laying flat on his face as if he were reaching down to grab something from the netherworld, or at least something which was once part of a higher world. I thought about that. I was like, wow, interesting. And I was thinking about him with his donkey, that poor donkey, and why he couldn't see the angel of the Lord, but his donkey did. He didn't see the angel until Hashem opened his eyes. Now, Hashem would not allow Bil'am to curse the children of Israel. And we see in Midrash Rabbah and Bamidbar, Numbers 22:10, then God said unto Bil'am, you shall not go with them. Bil'am said to him, if so, I will curse them from where I am. And he said to him, you shall not curse the people. Bil'am said to him, if so, let me bless them. He said to him, they do not need your blessing. Talking about Hashem is telling Bil'am, the children of Israel do not need your blessing, for they are blessed. Bil'am possessed three qualities: an evil eye, a haughty spirit, and a greedy soul. How do we know that he had an evil eye? We know in Numbers 24:2, because it is written, and Bil'am lifted up his eyes, and he saw Israel dwelling tribe by tribe. A haughty spirit, as is written, for the Lord refused to let me go with you. A greedy soul, as is written, even if Balak should give me his house full of silver and gold. So we can see Bil'am had an evil eye and a haughty spirit and a greedy soul. Parakeh Avot in 5-19 says, anyone who has these three things is from the students of Abraham, our father, and anyone who has three other things from the students of Bil'am, the evildoer. One who has a good eye, an ayin tovah, a humble spirit, and a small appetite is from the students of Abraham our father. One who has an evil eye, a haughty spirit, and a broad appetite is from the students of Bil'am, the evildoer. What difference is there between the students of Abraham our father and the students of Bil'am, the evildoer? It continues saying that the students of Abraham our father eat in this world and possess the next world. And it states this in Proverbs 8:21, there is what for those that love me to inherit, and their treasuries will I fill. But the students of Bil'am, the evildoer, inherit Gehinnom, which is purgatory, and go down to the pit of destruction. As it is stated in Psalm 55:24, and you, God, will bring them down to the pit of destruction, the people of blood and deceit. They will not live out half their days, and I will trust in you. In continuing, Rabbi Soloveitchik mentioned that the destructive evil eye is described as an outlook more than a trait. And one type is internally centered, while the other is aimed at the outside towards others. And I thought about us, having the ayin hara on ourselves, internally and outwardly towards others. Rabbi Soloveitchik wrote that the matter of the ayin hara is crystal clear to me, this is what he's saying for himself, that there are people whose lives are entirely dependent on the thoughts of others, whether they approve of them, forget about them, or praise them. At the moment they realize that others no longer approve of them or care about them, this immediately destroys their spiritual strength and self-confidence. People like this see themselves exclusively from the perspective of others without recognizing their abilities. So for people like this, the INTR can be devastating. When others gaze upon them with an INTR, with an evil eye, meaning some degree of opposition or disapproval, their very humanity can be completely destroyed. Now, I want to interject something here, Jules, for you, for the women, speaking to myself, that we should look at ourselves from the perspective of Hashem and how he sees us, not how someone else sees us. We shouldn't be living our lives only by what others approve of or see us. And yes, we can be supported, but anybody that has that evil eye and is not supportive and is saying bad things, we don't need to have that in our lives. Right. We need to see how Hashem sees us. And we talked about this last week. Mm-hmm. We talked about the thoughts that Hashem has towards us in Psalm 139, 17 to 18, and how precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. If I would count them, they are more than the sand. I awake and I am still with you. So even when we're looking at ourselves and the things that we see, which we talked about last week, in that speaking badly about ourselves, but we're still looking with our eyes. And we need to see things with our eyes the way Hashem sees us and others. And I want to also share a quote from last week's show, which was from Henny Machlis. And again, she was someone who looked past what was on the outside of a person and saw inside on them. And her quote said that you're not seeing your own tremendous, holy, divine potential. So in looking at others and trying to live up to what others are supporting, we need to live up to what Hashem has and know that we have an incredible, holy, divine potential. I'm going to share something with you from Rebbetzin Tzipporah Heller when I was reading and studying. And she said, when our mental imagery is in tune with God's vision of reality, it can move us towards what is known as divine inspiration, Ruach HaKodesh. This can only happen when we are not blocking out His truth, Hashem's truth, with our own agendas, which are so subtle that even we are not always aware of their existence, because we also deal with our egos. And so we have to be careful that we're not setting our own agendas, because we can get trapped in that, because we don't want to block out Hashem's truth. What are we cleaving to? And we talk about cleaving to Hashem. I want to share from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai in Perkei Avot 2:9. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was also known as the Rebaz, and he was one of the Ta'anim, which a teacher, a very important Jewish sage in the era of the Second Temple, and a contributor, a primary contributor to the Mishnah. And he was given the title Rabban. In Perkei Avot 2:9, Rabbi Yochanan said unto them, his followers, all rabbis, he said, go forth and observe which is the right way to which a man should cleave. All the rabbis had a different answer. Rabbi Joshua said a good companion. Rabbi Yossi said a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon said foresight. Rabbi Elazar said a good heart. Rabbi Eliezer said a good eye. Rabbi Yochanan said to them, I prefer the words of Elazar ben Arach, for in his words, your words are included. So everything that all these rabbis said was included. Rabbi Yochanan said again unto them, go forth and observe which is the way which a man should shun evil, which a man should shun. Rabbi Joshua said, an evil companion. Rabbi Yossi said, an evil neighbor. Rabbi Shimon said, one who borrows and does not repay. For he that borrows from man is as one who borrows from God. Blessed be he, as it is said, the wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous deal graciously and give. Psalms 37:21. Rabbi Eliezer said, an evil eye. That should be observed, and what the evil way a man should shun, an evil eye, which is what we're talking about, the INTR. And Rabbi Yochanan said, again, he preferred the words of Elazar ben Arach, for in his words, all the rabbi's words were included. And my husband and I were talking yesterday after Shabbat, and he shared something very, very interesting with me in talking about cleaving. And it has to do with Ruth and Orpah. And we talked about Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah in a recent show. I believe it was on Shavuot. And it's very interesting when we see when Naomi dissuades her two daughters-in-law from going with her, telling them to return, each of them, to their mother's house. We see that Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye and returned to her home. She went back to her life as a Moabite princess, back to riches, her old ways, just by giving her a kiss and saying goodbye. Ruth cleaved to Naomi. She chose to follow Hashem, and saying out of Ruth 1:16-17, do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you, for where you go I will go, where you lodge I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you. So we see the difference between the two. And another interesting thing I did not know, my husband shared this with me, Ruth's great-great-grandson David fought Orpah's great-great-grandson Goliath, the two sisters. And so we see the difference. Let's talk about Maris Ayin, the appearance to the eye. It's a perspective of the eye. It's where we can see something and make an assumption. And we do it. I know I've done it. I know it's something that we all have fallen into. And so let me give you an example. Say you're walking down the street and you see a person you know sitting with someone in a restaurant that is not kosher, and this person that you know is kosher. And so the person that you know is eating a burger in this non-kosher restaurant. So right away you make the assumption that the person is eating non-kosher food. But what you don't see is that the person bought a burger from a kosher place and then met another person at this non-kosher restaurant. So this person was still keeping kosher, but because you only saw a certain thing, this person only saw something very specific, right away made the assumption. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We talked about burning energy, burning power as related to the Ayin Hara, the evil eye. We need to be careful that we ourselves do not cause or start fires on others or ourselves. We have to be careful that we don't have that evil eye. We need to cleave to Hashem. We need to have our mental imagery in tune with Hashem's vision of reality, which can move us towards what is known as divine inspiration. I'm just repeating what Rebbetzin Heller had said. And moving us to divine inspiration, the Ruach HaKodesh. So when we're looking at something, someone, or ourselves, that we see ourselves through Hashem's eyes, that we have an ayin tovah, a good eye, that we see the good and the beauty in someone and also within ourselves. So, ladies, I just want to encourage you to see yourselves the way Hashem sees you, how much He loves you, how much that He approves of you, and sees your potential. We need to see our potential that we have, because each of us makes a difference in this world. And with everything that's going on, with so much that we're seeing of people with an ayin hara, we need to have that ayin tovah, the good eye, and be able to stand up for righteousness, stand up for Hashem, stand up and see the beauty in people and the good, and help to bring that out in others and to draw them to Hashem. So with that, I just want to say Ava Ma'od to all of you. I give you just much love. And as Julie mentioned earlier, we won't have a show next week. We will miss you. But in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about Pinchas and a couple of the women in Tanakh, some of our warrior women, and talking about standing up for righteousness.
That sounds like an exciting topic next week. I'm looking forward to it. As usual, I come away from these shows so blessed and encouraged.
I'm so glad. Me too.
Yeah. It's so hard to apply the things that we're learning to ourselves, and I'm so happy that you remind us every week about that, because we tend to, as women, take care of everybody else except ourselves.
Right.
And that's encouraging. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, I'm happy to share always. As I said, I learn as well. And I love sharing the things that I learn with all of you.
Yeah.
And we have a saying here in Israel, la'at, la'at, slowly, slowly. So if you just start with one thing, wonderful. Then make that the best absolute, and then go to work on the next.
Right.
Things that we see.
That's excellent.
But I think, in seeing the good in people, we have to be careful in that we don't react to something, that we kind of take a step back and maybe respond instead.
Right. Excellent. So tune in the week after.
Yeah.
so next week is the 13th, correct? I didn't even look at a calendar.
Yes, it is. I had to think for a moment. Yes. Yeah. Next week is the 13th, so we'll be back then on July 20th. On
the 20th. Sounds like a good plan. I look forward to chatting with you during the week, though. We need to make time to do that.
Yes.
So we can catch up
as well.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, like it, share it with your friends, and consider donate or buying us a cup of coffee. Since we get up so early, we could use that.
Y'all need a cup of coffee. For those of us that it's later in the afternoon, need our second cup.
Definitely. So have a very blessed week, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Love you all, and
bye.
Bye.
חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד